Hello all, hope you're having a great day today. Today we're talking about Chapter 15, Facility Preparation and Event Management. The process of developing and attracting events is one of the most important components of any facility's marketing efforts. Numerous facilities compete to get the same event because of the potential effect a large event can have on the local tourism market. Once an event is secured for a facility, the real planning begins for everything from managing marketing to securing enough parking attendants to work the event. Elements followed to help attract events include the bid and selection process, facility scheduling, developing policies and procedures, checking the facility for safety, and marketing the event. An inattentive employee or a careless fan can disrupt all these steps in minutes. A facility manager needs to develop a business plan to provide direction for the facility. The plan should outline the challenge for the upcoming year and ways to meet those challenges while reflecting on performance and achievement for the previous year. The following key elements should be included in the business plan: vision and values. This aspect relates to how the facility sees itself and how it wants to be perceived by others. It provides the framework for goals and expectations. Last year's accomplishments. Reviewing the previous year's business plan tells the facility manager what has been accomplished and how the new objectives should be formulated to repeat the successes or avoid the failures. Lessons learned. Understanding where mistakes were made in the previous year helps avoid the same errors and shows whether expectations are too high or too low. The overall objective. This is the main goal the facility will focus on for the coming year or event. Then key strategies. 5 or 6 of these are selected that will help the facility achieve the overall objective. And then tactics. How those strategies are broken down to outline ways to complete each key strategy and specifically how the work will get done. And then you need performance measurements. Performance measurements are used to rate the facility's performance to ensure the goals are being met successfully. Measurements should be both quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative, looking at the numbers of people that attended a certain event. And qualitative, how did people who are attending the event feel about the event? These goals and objectives should be monitored throughout the year and updated as needed. This process gives staff a clear picture of the business objectives and provides an understanding of what is expected from each employee to help accomplish the facility's goals. Business plans can be developed for the long term, either years out, or for the short term, monthly plans. The business plan should be reviewed at least quarterly to account for any unexpected market changes. A facility exists to host events. A vacant building serves no purpose and costs money in terms of upkeep, insurance, and even opportunity costs. Thus, facilities need to explore hosting events and teams that will help them achieve their goals. Some facilities with permanent tenants do not need to attract events. Other facilities must constantly compete with others to attract the best events, since the best events hopefully produce the greatest financial return on a facility's investment. The process of trying to win larger events is very competitive. Local chambers of commerce or convention and visitor bureaus are often aggressively competing to win these events to increase the number of people staying in the host city and spending money to stimulate the local economy. We actually have one of these events coming up very soon. It's called TAF. The Texas American Athletic Federation will be here in Corpus Christi this summer in July, and they're expecting to have tens of thousands of people here for that event. They'll be competing in all things like track, judo, volleyball, beach volleyball, and other events. One of the first questions asked by a facility manager is who is sponsoring, underwriting, or bringing the event to the facility. In this particular case, it's Corpus Christi Parks and Rec as one of the sponsoring agencies, if you will. This might seem like a simple question, but the answer can be highly political. The politics can stem from factors such as the desire to raise money and the prestige of hosting the event. A typical bid request asks for detailed information such as the following: a facility's size, such as its seating capacity and parking capabilities, the number of hotel rooms in the immediate area, what other events have been held in the facility or the region, and the experience of employees and volunteers, how the event will be integrated with other activities in the area. So bidding for an event can be a major undertaking requiring significant time and energy. It is not uncommon to spend months on a bid. The process also costs a considerable amount of money. An Olympic bid may require 5 to 10 people working for several years. I would say it's probably more than 5 or 10 people. Most bids for smaller events are completed by one person, such as a facility manager, with the help of some volunteers or a combination of employees and volunteers. Before holding an event, it is vital to consider all possible employment and volunteer needs. It is imperative that facilities employ enough people to adequately serve patrons, whether they are full-time employees, part-time employees, volunteers, or a combination of these. Management policies, procedures, and protocols need to be in place to make sure the event and facility will run smoothly if a bid is won. The financial component of a bid involves everything from what price to charge for renting the facility to how much revenue the event could generate. During the bid writing process, the facility must address specific legal concerns. The pre-event legal concerns can be significant. The primary legal aspects that affect events include contract issues, potential government or industry concerns, risk management, and purchasing insurance. In fact, the bid is an invitation to make an offer, and if the offer is rejected, a contract never existed since there was no acceptance. Additional contract concerns that should be examined include waivers, especially waivers signed by children. They need to make sure that they have parental signatures for it to be legal. Renewable contracts and future consideration. Some contracts are entered into in a particular year and then kept on. These open-term contracts often allow an event to return to the same facility in the future. Many governmental concerns need to be addressed before an event. Permits are a major issue as some activities may not be allowed in certain facilities or certain parts of the city. The police, fire, and emergency units in the local, regional, state, or federal government units that may have jurisdiction or may have a say in the event or facility need to be contacted as well. Some events not only require contact with the government agency, but also require personnel to be at an event. Risks abound during an event. People can fall, run into others, get hit by projectiles, and sustain numerous other injuries. Many injuries can be prevented if risk management principles are adopted and practiced before an event. Insurance must be examined for several perspectives. A facility that is leasing a space out to others or a tenant must make sure that a current policy for at least $1 million in liability protection has been purchased. The insurance contract should be examined on a yearly basis to make sure they are still current and that there are not any major issues in the coverage. The event or team using the facility needs to purchase an appropriate insurance policy regardless of whether the facility requires one. The primary marketing concern is typically bringing people to the facility as users or spectators. One of the critical elements of any marketing effort is obtaining sponsorship. Sponsors can range from name sponsors to minor sponsors who provide trade-outs or minor cash payment. Name sponsors, as the term implies, may pay a certain sum to the primary sponsor of the event, and their name is used to promote the event. This exchange of value provides the sponsor with visible recognition or community support. Booking is the process of contractually finalizing an event on the schedule. When all the forms or contracts are completed, the event is recorded in such a way that all parties know the who, what, when, where, and why. The process requires more than simply completing paperwork. The facility or the event may have to contact the media, local hotels, local attractions, the police, security companies, concessionaires, and a host of other parties to make sure everyone is ready for the event. Scheduling examines how events interact with one another to avoid potential conflicts. The term booking and scheduling is often used in the industry, but the scheduling should always come first, as an event should not be booked if there is a scheduling conflict that cannot be corrected. This is the financial analysis of a basketball game at a 2,000-seat local gymnasium might reveal these costs. The cost for bringing in the teams is about $3,000. Their marketing costs about $1,500, and so total cost would be about $4,500. The financial analysis also indicates the revenues based on past experience, with the ticket price being $4, average spent on food per person about $3, and average revenue from parking per car is about $3. Note that for parking, there are normally 3 or 4 people per car. So again, this is just looking at the analysis of attracting an event. This is going through a best or worst case scenario analysis. The financial projections associated with the rough budgets and expected income are affected by numerous variables. Thus, most events have multiple budgets that they rely on: a best case scenario, a most likely, and worst case planning scenario, which is what you see here. This is a very simplistic model that shows what a smaller facility might take into consideration. Larger facilities often use complex modeling, algorithms, and computer programs to crunch numbers and develop appropriate projections. But you can see based upon ticket sales, what your ticket revenue would look like, your food, as well as parking and the total revenue. So on the basis of these numbers, it appears that the basketball game is a good event to bring to the gym because there's most likely projection of $7,500 or $12,000 to $4,500 in expenses minus the expenses. Even in the worst case scenario, the event will still make a profit of about $3,250. Once the event is scheduled, contracted for, and planned, the process of preparation begins. The facility must be ready for every event. For example, if a pool will be used, the chemicals must be checked, the water temperature needs to be adjusted, which means that all the heaters must be functioning, the filters must be operating, and all safety equipment needs to be in place. All lifeguards need to be trained and ready, and the facility must be cleaned. Every event produces waste in the form of water, sanitation, or garbage. The facility should be examined to determine if there are any problems with drains or the septic system. A typical exercise involves bringing in as many volunteers or employees as possible together and having them simultaneously flush the toilets. This exercise tests the water pressure and simulates what will occur during a major event, especially during intermissions. An interesting exercise is to go to a facility and count the trash cans. In stadiums and arenas, the fans produce tons of trash. Preparation needs to be made to address the trash receptacle needs, recycling needs, and post-event trash needs. Other ancillary accommodations can range from additional office space to dorm rooms for participants. These facilities need to be secured, managed, and monitored to make sure they are functioning correctly. Ancillary facilities include living quarters, parking areas, dining areas, medical and first aid stations, outdoor restrooms, and postal facilities. Each facility that will be used needs to be examined to make sure it's functional, clean, and not dangerous. Security may be an issue in some areas as well, whereas other areas may require greater vehicular access for emergency vehicles or mail trucks. All facility areas are used in an event must meet the event requirements. And you see like an event safety checklist here. At any event, the emergency action plan must be researched and developed before a disaster occurs. Since no one knows when a disaster may occur, a disaster plan must be developed before every event. Managers must look into all potential threats and plan what actions would happen if they were to occur. A risk evaluation matrix can help establish this. The risk evaluation matrix is a chart that identifies the most realistic threats to a business and helps prioritize a response and backup plans. A group of emergency coordinators, including management, human resources, information technology staff, and security, should be appointed or assigned to develop the matrix. After the coordinators and matrix are in place, a recovery plan can be developed. A backup plan with backup personnel needs to be created in case any emergencies arise that alter the primary plan. One of the often overlooked components of an event is making sure there are enough supplies and that the supplies are stored in an easily accessible location. It's difficult to store several thousand rolls of toilet paper in a convenient location. Thus, space needs to be set aside for storing supplies that will be used during the event and for items that need to be placed out of the way. Wi-Fi can address some wireless communication needs, but cables are still needed for many video and broadcasting applications. The sound system and scoreboard need to be tested before an event. One of the primary concerns with the media is making sure they have access to the facility. Media kits and credentials should be developed for the invited press. Uninvited press also needs to be considered, along with the steps that will be taken if uninvited media representatives attend the event. Every event should expect both invited and uninvited press. Tickets can be distributed through phone sales, ticket windows, the internet, ticket brokers, mail orders, or even kiosks or sale buses. Although pre-event ticket sales are also part of the event marketing efforts, the facility also needs to be aware of various concerns affecting ticket distribution and sales on the day of the event. The need to protect assets, participants, and fans is paramount for any event. A successful security plan must be developed months or years before an event. The threat of terrorist activities at the Olympics forces organizers to spend years developing security systems and security, traffic, checkpoints, and cameras. Before an event is scheduled, all parking options must be examined as well. Numerous regulations must be followed in order for food to be served. Health and safety regulations are dictated by local, state, and federal governments. If these regulations are violated, there are significant penalties. All food vendors need to have proper licensing from all pertinent regulatory agencies. Concessions that also need to consider ordering food, making sure they have their supplies that they need, and equipment and training personnel. If liquor will be served, proper procedures must be in place, including obtaining a liquor license. Employees need to be trained on how to know when a customer is visibly intoxicated and how to spot underage drinking. They should also be able to tell when spectators bring in their own beverages and should be familiar with ejection policies. A facility cannot respond to an emergency if it does not have enough of the necessary emergency response equipment. The facility also needs to have properly trained employees capable of implementing the emergency plan. Before an event, the facility should examine local fire and police departments as well as ambulance companies to evaluate response times and the medical attention they can provide. Local emergency crews should be familiar with the venue in order to make an efficient response. Often an emergency medical technician crew visits a site before an event to familiarize themselves with the location and to become knowledgeable about the quickest routes around the facility and to local hospitals, as some roads may be blocked for the event. Major injuries that require transportation to a hospital should be taken to the closest hospital. All medical situations, regardless of their severity, should be recorded in either the security log or a medical log. There is the possibility of lawsuits with any medical injury, and documentation will be crucial to help defend against such claims. The documentation should focus on the injury, facts about the incident, witness statements, and the actions taken. Before an event, a medical response team must be in place. All levels of medical response should be included in the development of an emergency action plan, starting with first responders. Facility staff should be certified in first aid, cardiorespiratory resuscitation, and use of defibrillators. A medical station should be set up in a commons location, possibly next to the security command posts, with some basic aid materials, first responders, and a triage program in place. An event is ready for basic cuts, bruises, and minor injuries. Every event is different, but many facilities have a dedicated store or concessions area. Food-related concerns before an event often center around what food to sell. Every facility has a unique menu based on the type of facility, the region, the local fans, and even the event itself. A health club, for example, typically offers a health-oriented menu because of its clientele. A ballpark in New York may have to offer more variety to handle the broad array of fans than a park in Kansas City or Pittsburgh, which may have more of a traditional fare. Concession trends this is a festival that this is before the games. The streets outside a facility can be packed with revelers and dealers, as well as this is like a festival outside of a facility. People walking up and down the street, vendors set up. You also have the ambulance there. So concessions are one of the largest activities going on behind the scenes during an event. One reason is that concessions sometimes the biggest single profit center. Concessionaires strive to receive about 80% profit to cover their expenses. Thus, if an item costs 20 cents, the goal is to sell it for $1. Since management has to focus on profits, anything occurring during an event that can harm profits needs to be remedied. So here you can see cotton candy, there's an 85% profit margin here, and snow cones, 82% market profit margin, popcorn along the same lines, and nachos about 70%, so a little less. Consultants often retained to show how the menu can be enhanced, how employees can be trained to be more effective, and how the facility can be laid out to maximize speed and placing and processing orders. Management should monitor when, where, how, and how often fans purchase foods. For example, because most sales occur early in an event rather than close to the end, more sales staff are needed earlier in an event. Long lines, warm beer, few options, and dirty conditions and poorly prepared products can all hurt profits for years to come. Management has to focus on providing customer satisfaction in the quickest time possible and at a relatively inexpensive price. Fans are accustomed to paying more for food at a ballpark or stadium than they would in other settings, but they demand high quality and quick service as well. So to accommodate for that, a lot of facilities have gone to more smartphone apps where you can order your food at your seat or merchandise and it's delivered to your seat. It makes it really convenient so that you don't have to leave and go stand in line. Other high-end and entertaining areas generate significant profits, and these profits can be derived from premium food and novelty items. For example, the 2002 MLB All-Star Game generated $40 per head in revenue from concession and merchandising sales. The breakdown was $18 in retail sales, $13 from concessions, and $9 from premium dining. A significant chunk of the revenue came from anything that bore the word All-Star, such as caps, shirts, and balls. These financial results need to be constantly monitored during and after an event to ensure that the right products are being offered at the right prices. High-end eating and entertaining areas generate significant profits. If you had to develop a script for the pre-game activities before a major college or football game, what events would be on that script? That script needs to be developed and closely followed because a nationally televised event cannot be delayed when the television cameras are running. The key to running any successful event is proper planning. And you can see an example of a script here. Other problems that can arise during an event, there could be injury to fans, parking problems, protests, crowd rushes, failure of employees to follow policies and procedures. Knowing how to deal with that is really important. Other problems that can arise are accumulating trash, how alcohol sales are going to affect the audience, malfunctioning computers when you're trying to sell tickets, inaccurate tickets, malfunctioning lights and sound equipment, and participants or your personnel are unable to attend. So the process of competing to bring events to a facility can be cutthroat. Facilities with existing tenants and a solid reputation do not need to struggle the same way smaller facilities do. The battle to land events is not unique to sport facilities. Convention centers have to fight the same battles. Facilities can reduce the time and cost associated with the bidding process if they develop a template that responds to most information requested in typical bid packets. Once a bid is pursued, a facility needs to garner all the appropriate personnel, resources, and strategies to help win the bid. Once the bid is won, a facility needs to deliver on everything was promised, from having appropriate personnel to ensuring marketing and financial success. A facility manager spends a majority of their time finalizing all the details before an event. The most important area that cannot be left to last minute planning is security. The planning process for hosting an event and then preparing the facility for the event is time intensive, but the event itself can raise various concerns. Has the facility complied with all its contractual requirements? Are the employees doing their job? Will the event be a success? Will the event raise legal issues? These are just some of the questions the facility manager needs to ask and answer when evaluating an event. The facility manager's job is not completed when the event starts. Although planning can take months or years and many problems are resolved before the event starts, numerous issues can arise during an event. It's always important to make sure that you're protecting your fans as well as your employees at any event. All right, guys, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you. We're going to be talking about post-event analysis in our next discussion. I'll talk with you soon. Have a great day.